Sergeant Kennan Craven didn't expect July 25th to be different. But within minutes, he was chasing a man with nothing to lose, racing through Dallas streets, dodging wrecked cars, and staring down the barrel of a gun. This isn't just a crime story. It's about courage, fear, and the moments that define us. The sun hung high over Dallas, Texas, casting a golden sheen across the sprawling city on Tuesday, July 25, 2023. Summer heat rippled off the asphalt, blending with the hum of air conditioners and the distant chatter of kids playing near Love Field. Sergeant Kennan Craven guided his patrol car down a quiet stretch of Lemon Avenue, the leather steering wheel warm under his palms. At 32, with sandy hair cropped short and brown eyes sharp from years on the force, he leaned back in his seat, one hand resting casually on the wheel. The radio crackled faintly, a familiar rhythm to his day, as he grinned at the voice buzzing through. "So you catch that Rangers game last night, Sarge?" Officer Pete Delgado's drawl filled the cabin, playful and light. "Thought they'd choke in the ninth, but man, that homer sealed it." Kennan chuckled, pressing the mic button clipped to his shoulder. "Barely stayed awake for it, Pete. Wife had me up late fixing the AC again. But yeah, hell of a swing." He eased the car around a corner, past a row of modest brick homes where American flags fluttered on porches. Dallas felt alive today. Families grilling, traffic humming, a Tuesday like any other, or so he thought. 8 years on the force had taught him to savor these moments, the calm before the inevitable storm. The radio sparked again, this time with a sharper edge. "All units near Love Field, be advised. Reported vehicle theft at 9600 El Centro Drive. U-Haul truck, white, license plate Tango Charlie 497. Suspect on scene." Dispatch's voice cut through the chatter, crisp and urgent. Kennan straightened, his easy grin fading as he clicked the mic. "Craven here, I'm 2 minutes out. Any description on the suspect?" "Male, 40s, dark clothing, possibly armed," came the reply. "Covert teams en route. Proceed with caution." Kennan's pulse quickened, a familiar jolt he'd learned to ride rather than fight. He flipped on the dash lights, no sirens yet, and swung the car toward El Centro, tires gripping the road as he accelerated. "Copy that. I'll scope it first. Let covert know I'm close." The neighborhood shifted as he drove, tree-lined streets giving way to tighter clusters of apartments and small businesses, the kind of place where a U-Haul might sit unnoticed for hours. He spotted it from a block away, a boxy white truck parked crookedly outside a faded duplex, its back door half open. Kennan slowed, pulling to the curb a safe distance back, and squinted through the windshield. A man stood by the driver's side, tall, wiry, with tangled dark hair and a black hoodie despite the heat. His movements were frantic, hands darting as he tossed a duffel bag into the cab, glancing over his shoulder like a cornered animal. "That's our guy," Kennan muttered, keying the mic again. "Suspect in sight, male, matches description. He's prepping to move, black hoodie, jeans, twitchy as hell." He adjusted his rearview mirror, catching a glint in the man's hand. Metal, maybe a key, maybe something worse. His gut tightened. "Covert, ETA?" 3 minutes, Sarge," Pete crackled back. "Hold tight. We're rolling." Kennan nodded to himself, eyes locked on the figure. 3 minutes was an eternity in a moment like this, but he'd wait. Procedure mattered, until it didn't. Then the man froze, head snapping toward Kennan's cruiser. Their eyes met through the glass, his wild bloodshot rimmed with a desperation Kennan had seen too many times. "Damn it," Kennan breathed, hand hovering near his holster. The man, later ID'd as Ryan Taylor, 41, bolted for the cab, slamming the door as the engine roared to life. Dust kicked up as the U-Haul lurched forward, tires squealing against the pavement, tearing down El Centro like a beast unleashed. "Suspect's moving," Kennan barked into the mic, flipping the sirens on full blast. Red and blue lights painted the street as he gunned the engine, the cruiser leaping after the truck. "Heading west on El Centro. Covert, step on it." The chase was on, adrenaline surging through him like a live wire. Houses blurred past, kids on bikes scattering, a woman yanking her dog off the sidewalk, Dallas waking to the chaos unfolding in its veins. Taylor veered left onto Dunhaven, the U-Haul's bulk swaying dangerously as it clipped a mailbox, sending it spinning into a yard. Kennan stayed tight, weaving through traffic, his focus narrowing to the truck's taillights. "He's not slowing," he said, voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "Male, 40s, dark hair, looks unhinged. We've got a runner." The radio buzzed, Pete's voice cutting in. "Backup's rolling, Sarge. 2 units from Marsh Lane joining up." "Good," Kennan replied, swerving to avoid a sedan that screeched to a stop. The U-Haul barreled through a red light at Linnell Place, horns blaring as drivers swerved. Kennan gritted his teeth, following close but careful. Dallas wasn't a racetrack, and he wasn't about to let this turn into a wreck. Yet Taylor drove like a man with nothing left, the truck's engine growling as it swung onto a side street, scraping a parked car with a metallic shriek. Kennan caught another glimpse of Taylor through the side mirror, his face twisted, mouth moving like he was yelling at no one. "What's your deal, man?" Kennan murmured, hands tight on the wheel. He'd seen runners before, drunks, thieves, kids too dumb to stop, but this felt different. Taylor's eyes had a fire, a madness that set Kennan's nerves on edge. "Pete, he's heading toward the tollway. Get me a block if you can." "Working it," Pete shot back. "Units converging. Watch yourself, Sarge." The U-Haul roared ahead, cutting through a gas station lot, nearly flattening a pump as attendants dove aside. Kennan followed, tires bouncing over the curb, his cruiser shuddering but holding. Dallas unfolded around them, strip malls, billboards, the everyday pulse of a city now a backdrop to this sudden storm. He clicked the mic again, voice rising over the sirens. "Suspects westbound, nearing Marsh Lane. He's reckless, clipping everything. Tell me covert's close." The truck swung north, tires smoking as it grazed a utility pole, sparks flying. A kid on the sidewalk screamed, dropping his ice cream. Kennan's stomach lurched, but he kept his foot steady. "Come on, Taylor," he muttered. "Give it up before someone gets hurt." The radio crackled, dispatch cutting in. "Covert's 1 minute out. Suspect ID confirmed. Ryan Taylor, 41, priors for theft, assault, narcotics. Considered volatile. Proceed with extreme caution." Kennan's jaw tightened. Volatile. That explained the eyes, the frantic edge. "Copy," he said, eyes locked on the truck as it barreled toward a residential stretch, narrowly missing a minivan. "He's not stopping. Get me that block." Dallas shimmered in the heat, a city caught off guard as Taylor tore through its streets, Kennan in pursuit. The U-Haul's taillights flickered ahead, a beacon of trouble pulling him deeper into the fray. 8 years on the force, bank jobs, bar fights. Nothing matched this gut punch, this sense of a fuse burning short. "Hold on, folks," he said under his breath, glancing at the homes flashing by. "This guy's trouble, and I'm not letting him win." The Dallas skyline blurred past Sergeant Kennan Craven's windshield as his patrol car screamed down a narrow stretch of Marsh Lane, sirens cutting through the thick summer air of July 25, 2023. The U-Haul truck ahead, driven by 41-year-old Ryan Taylor, lurched like a wounded beast, its white bulk weaving through traffic with reckless abandon. Kennan's brown eyes narrowed, locked on the taillights flickering in the evening haze, his hand steady on the wheel despite the adrenaline pumping through him. At 32, he'd chased plenty of runners, but this one felt different. Wilder, darker, like a storm he couldn't predict. "Suspects northbound on Marsh," he said into the mic, voice firm over the wail of sirens. "He's all over the road, clipped a pole back there. Covert, where are you?" The radio crackled, Officer Pete Delgado's reply cutting through. "Half a minute out, Sarge. Coming up from Linnell Place. Hang tight." Kennan grunted, swerving to dodge a pickup that screeched to a halt as Taylor barreled through. "Tight's not the word. He's a damn tornado." The chase had barely begun, but Dallas was already feeling it. A woman on the sidewalk yanked her toddler back as the U-Haul roared past, tires spitting gravel onto a manicured lawn. Kennan caught a glimpse of her wide eyes in his rearview mirror. Fear, shock, a reminder of why he couldn't let up. 8 years on the force flashed through his mind, a reel of late nights and close calls. Last spring, he'd cornered a bank robber off Inwood Road. Guy had a shotgun, wild grin, but froze when Kennan talked him down. "Desperate folks run," he'd told Pete later, sipping coffee at the precinct. "Doesn't mean they're all killers." Taylor, though. This was no bank job punk. Dispatch had filled in the blanks minutes ago. Ryan Taylor, 41, priors stacking up like a bad hand. Petty theft at 19, assault at 25, narcotics busts peppering his 30s, a life spiraling, fueled by meth and bad choices, landing him here behind the wheel of a stolen rig. Kennan pictured him from that fleeting stare on El Centro, bloodshot eyes, jittery hands, a man running from more than just cops. "What's got you this far gone, buddy?" he muttered, easing the cruiser around a corner as Taylor swung onto Dunhaven. The U-Haul's back end fishtailed, slamming into a parked sedan with a crunch that echoed through the street. Glass sprayed, a car alarm blaring as Taylor gunned it, oblivious or uncaring. Kennan winced, clicking the mic again. "He just took out a car. Dunhaven and Lennell. No injuries I can see, but he's not slowing." Pete's voice buzzed back, tense now. "Covert's here. 2 units behind you, Sarge. He's boxing himself in, hitting residential." Kennan glanced at the houses flashing by, low brick bungalows, kids' bikes tipped over in yards, a barbecue still smoking on someone's porch. Dallas was alive, vulnerable, and Taylor was tearing through it like a blade. "Boxing in, huh?" he said almost to himself. "Let's hope he picks a dead end." The truck veered right, clipping a stop sign that bent with a groan, then straightened out, heading for a tighter stretch of alleys near Love Field. Kennan followed, tires gripping as he hugged the turns, the cruiser's engine growling in protest. His mind flicked back. Another chase, 2 years ago, a kid in a stolen Camry, high on bravado more than drugs. Kennan had cut him off at a rail crossing, watched him slump in defeat as the cuffs clicked. Desperation's a hell of a fuel. He'd told his wife Lisa that night, her arms around him in their kitchen. Burns hot, then burns out. Taylor, though, this wasn't bravado. This was chaos. A man passed the edge, and Kennan felt it in his bones. "Pete," he said into the mic, "tell me you've got eyes. He's heading for the hangars." "Got him," Pete replied, voice tight. "He's weaving through. Covert splitting to flank. You okay up there?" Kennan smirked faintly, dodging a trash can Taylor knocked into the road. "Peachy, just keep up." The U-Haul roared ahead, its bulk a white blur against the darkening sky, Love Field's low hangars looming closer. Kennan spotted a second cruiser pulling in from a side street, covert team, lights flashing, boxing Taylor toward a choke point near the airport's edge. Then it happened. Taylor swerved hard, the truck's nose slamming into an unmarked sedan creeping from an alley. Airbags popped, a muffled boom ringing out as the sedan spun, its hood crumpled. Kennan slammed his brakes, stopping short as sparks flew, the U-Haul rocking but not stopping. "He hit covert!" he shouted into the mic, heart racing. "Dunhaven, east side, units down, he's still moving." Pete's voice crackled back, urgent. "Officers okay, shaken, airbag deployed, we're closing in, stay on him." Kennan gunned it, the cruiser leaping forward as Taylor regained speed, smoke trailing from the U-Haul's front. "Shaken's better than dead," he muttered, relief mixing with the adrenaline. Dallas stretched around him, alleys narrowing, hangars casting long shadows, the city holding its breath as Taylor pushed deeper into the maze. A man darted from a driveway, yelling as the truck grazed his mailbox, but Kennan kept his eyes forward, tracking the beast ahead. "He's not running smart," he said under his breath. "He's running scared." The radio buzzed again, dispatch cutting in. "Suspects northbound toward Denton Drive, additional units from Inwood en route. Be advised, he's escalating. Possible weapon confirmed." Kennan's jaw tightened, that glint from El Centro flashing in his mind. Metal. Maybe a gun. "Copy," he said, voice steady. "He's not just a thief." "Got it." Taylor's desperation was a live wire, sparking with every turn, and Kennan felt the weight of it. Lives on the line, not just his own. He caught another glimpse through the truck's side mirror. Taylor's face, pale and twisted, shouting into the cab like a man arguing with ghosts. "What's driving you, huh?" Kennan murmured, weaving past a delivery van that screeched aside. 8 years had taught him to read runners. Fear, greed, panic. But Taylor was a puzzle, a storm with no center. "Pete," he called into the mic. "He's nearing the tollway ramp. Tell me we've got a plan." "Working it, Sarge," Pete shot back. "Units staging ahead. He's not slipping through." The U-Haul roared onto a wider stretch, tires smoking as it grazed a guardrail, sparks lighting the dusk. Kennan stayed close, lights painting the road red and blue, Dallas trembling under the chase. "Good," he said, gripping the wheel tighter, "because this guy's not stopping and neither am I." The tollway loomed, cars scattering as Taylor charged the ramp, Kennan right behind. The city's pulse quickened, a Tuesday turned nightmare, and Kennan knew this was just the start. Taylor's chaos unfolding, his own resolve hardening. "Hold on, Dallas," he whispered, eyes locked on the truck. "I've got this." The chase stretched into the night, a shadow growing darker, and Kennan braced for what lay ahead. The Dallas North Tollway stretched ahead like a concrete artery as Sergeant Kennan Craven's patrol car roared up the ramp, sirens blaring through the humid dusk of July 25, 2023. Ahead, Ryan Taylor's stolen U-Haul truck barreled into traffic, its white frame a hulking menace weaving through the evening rush. Kennan's brown eyes flicked between the road and the truck's taillights, his hands locked on the wheel, sweat beading on his brow despite the AC blasting. At 32, he'd chased runners through alleys and back roads, but this, Taylor's wild plunge onto the highway, felt like stepping into a hurricane. "He's on the tollway!" Kennan shouted into the mic, voice cutting above the engine's growl. "Northbound, past Marsh Lane, moving fast, over 100. The radio crackled back with Officer Pete Delgado's urgency. "Copy, Sarge. Unit staging at Northwest Highway. He's got nowhere to go. Watch the civvies." Kennan grunted, swerving to avoid a sedan that veered left, its driver's face a mask of panic as Taylor's truck roared past. "Watching's all I can do. He's a wrecking ball." Dallas trembled under the chaos. The U-Haul's tires smoked as Taylor pushed it harder, its bulk swaying dangerously with every lane change. Kennan stayed tight, lights flashing red and blue, but the highway was a beast of its own. Cars clogging both directions, commuters oblivious until the last second. A silver SUV honked, swerving as Taylor cut across, clipping its rear bumper with a screech of metal. Shards of taillight sprayed the asphalt, glinting in Kennan's headlights, and he winced. "That's one," he muttered, knowing it wouldn't be the last. The radio buzzed again, dispatch's voice sharp. "Suspects northbound, passing Harry Hines. Reports of collisions. No serious injuries yet. Backup's 2 minutes out. Hold the line, Craven." Kennan clicked the mic, his jaw tight. "Holding's not the issue. He's tearing through everything. Get me that block." Ahead, Taylor swerved again, the U-Haul's nose slamming into a blue hatchback. The smaller car spun, tires squealing, and smashed into the guardrail with a sickening crunch. Kennan's stomach lurched, but he saw the driver stumble out, shaken but upright. 2, he counted, foot steady on the gas. 8 years on the force hadn't prepared him for this, a chase turning into a demolition derby. He'd trained for precision, cutoffs, PIT maneuvers, but Taylor wasn't playing by rules. The truck veered left, clipping a pickup, then right, grazing a minivan that fishtailed into the median. Horns blared, a cacophony of panic rising over the sirens. "He's lost it," Kennan said, voice low as he dodged the minivan's swerve. "No pattern, just hitting whatever's there." The radio crackled, Pete cutting in. "Sarge, he's at 4 hits, people calling it in. You okay up there?" "Fine," Kennan replied, though his knuckles whitened on the wheel. "He's not evading, he's attacking." Dallas North Tollway stretched north, a ribbon of chaos under the fading sun, and Taylor's rampage painted it red. 5 cars now, then 6, metal crumpling like paper under the U-Haul's weight. A delivery van flipped onto its side, boxes spilling across the lanes, and Kennan swerved hard, tires gripping as he avoided the wreckage. 6, he breathed, glancing at the driver crawling free. "Luck's holding, for now." The radio sparked, dispatch again. "Suspects approaching Northwest Highway. 8 collisions reported, minor injuries only. Units ahead prepping a choke. Stay on him." Kennan's pulse raced, the numbers climbing too fast. "Copy," he said, eyes locked on Taylor's truck as it plowed through, slamming a red coupe that spun into a ditch. 9. He pictured Lisa at home, her voice last night. "Stay safe, Ken," and gritted his teeth. "Gotta end this before luck runs out." Taylor's U-Haul roared past a sign for Mockingbird Lane, its engine growling as it hit a 10th car, a black SUV that skidded sideways, blocking a lane. Kennan weaved through, lights flashing, the highway a battlefield of twisted metal and stunned drivers. "He's not stopping," he told Pete through the mic. 10 hits, heading for Mockingbird. "Where's that choke?" Pete's reply came fast. "Setting up now. 2 units at the exit. More rolling in. He's boxed, Sarge. Just keep him in sight." Kennan nodded to himself, the cruiser hugging the road as Taylor pushed the truck harder, its frame shuddering with every impact. A green sedan swerved too late. 11. The U-Haul's bumper tearing its side mirror clean off. Then a white pickup. 12. Lurching into the shoulder with a blown tire. Kennan's breath caught as a school bus loomed ahead, yellow and slow, but Taylor veered at the last second, grazing its rear with a scrape that echoed over the sirens. 12, and a bus, he reported, voice tight. He's a damn missile. Dallas North Tollway stretched on, cars scattering like leaves before a storm, and Kennan felt the weight. Every hit a near miss, every driver a life he couldn't lose. Pete, he said, tell me we're closing this. He's at 13. The radio buzzed. Dispatch cutting in. 13 confirmed. Suspects nearing Wycliffe Avenue. Chokes ready. Hold tight, Craven. Ahead, Taylor slammed into a gray hatchback. 13, sending it spinning into the median, glass shattering across the lanes. Kennan swerved, debris pinging off his hood, and cursed under his breath. Too close. The U-Haul's taillights flared as Taylor pushed north, the highway narrowing toward the Wycliffe exit. Kennan spotted flashing lights ahead. Backup staging, a wall of cruisers ready to trap him. Got eyes on the block, he told Pete, voice steady despite the chaos. He's running out of road. Taylor swerved again, the truck's side scraping a concrete barrier, sparks flying like a warning flare. Kennan stayed close, weaving through the wreckage. 13 cars down, Dallas trembling and Taylor showing no sign of surrender. He glimpsed Taylor's silhouette in the cab, head jerking, hands flailing, a man unmoored, lost to whatever drove him. What's in your head, Taylor? Kennan murmured, the cruiser's engine roaring as he matched the truck's pace. 8 years had taught him patience, but this tested every ounce. Lives hanging on every second, the highway a proving ground. Pete, he said into the mic, he's nearing Wycliffe. Tell the team he's not braking. We've got one shot. Copy, Sarge, Pete replied, voice taut. Units locked, Mockingbird's the line. You're the tip of the spear, bring him in. Kennan nodded, the tollway's chaos unfolding around him. Cars abandoned, drivers shouting, Dallas caught in Taylor's storm. On it, he said, eyes fixed on the truck as it charged toward the exit, a beast cornered but not tamed. Hold on, folks, he whispered, gripping the wheel tighter. This ends soon. The highway stretched north, a ribbon of havoc under the sinking sun, and Kennan braced for the fight ahead, Taylor's rampage peaking, his own resolve burning bright. Dallas watched, breathless, as the chase hurtled toward its breaking point. The Dallas North Tollway pulsed with chaos under the fading sun as Sergeant Kennan Craven's patrol car tore through the wreckage left by Ryan Taylor's stolen U-Haul on July 25, 2023. The highway's concrete stretched north, littered with twisted metal and shattered glass. 13 civilian cars down, a near miss with a school bus still burning in Kennan's mind. His brown eyes stayed locked on the truck's taillights, flickering as Taylor pushed the battered rig toward the Wycliffe Avenue exit. At 32, sweat soaked his uniform, but his grip on the wheel was steady, his voice calm as he clicked the mic. Pete, he's closing on Wycliffe, 13 hits and counting. Tell me the choke's solid. Officer Pete Delgado's reply crackled through the radio, tight with focus. Solid, Sarge. 2 units at Mockingbird, 3 rolling up from Lemon. We've got spikes ready. He's not slipping this. Kennan nodded, swerving to avoid a chunk of bumper spinning across the lane, the cruiser's tires humming against the asphalt. Good. He's a battering ram. Needs to stop now. Dallas loomed around him, skyline jagged against the dusk, commuters scrambling off the road. A city holding its breath as Taylor's storm raged on. The U-Haul's engine growled ahead, smoke trailing from its hood after grazing that last guardrail near Northwest Highway. Kennan caught a glimpse of Taylor's silhouette through the cab window, shoulders hunched, head jerking, a man unraveling with every mile. You're running out of road, buddy, Kennan murmured, easing off the gas just enough to keep pace without crowding. 8 years on the force had drilled in the balance. Push too hard, you lose control. Hang too far back, you lose the suspect. Taylor wasn't making it easy, though. His chaos defied every playbook. Suspects at Wycliffe, he barked into the mic, voice rising over the sirens. He's weaving. Might take the exit. Where's that block? Pete's response came fast. Exit's locked. 2 cruisers nose to nose, spikes down. He's got no out but straight. Mockingbird's the kill zone. Kennan's jaw tightened, picturing it. Mockingbird Lane, a quarter-mile ahead, a tight off-ramp flanked by trees and concrete, perfect for a trap. Copy, he said. I'm the shepherd. Keep the gate shut. The tollway narrowed as Taylor charged toward the exit, the U-Haul's bulk swaying, its tires screeching against the curve. Kennan stayed close, lights flashing red and blue, a beacon in the dusk. Ahead, he spotted the first signs of the choke. Two black and whites angled across the ramp, their grills kissing, officers crouched behind with weapons drawn. "There's my wall," he muttered, relief flickering through the tension. But Taylor didn't slow. His truck lurched right, then left, slamming into a silver coupe that spun into the median with a crunch that echoed over the sirens. 14, Kennan counted, wincing as the coupe's driver stumbled out, dazed but moving. "Pete, he's still hitting. Tell the team he's not braking." The radio buzzed. Dispatch cutting in. 14 confirmed. Suspects bypassing Wycliffe, heading for Mockingbird. Units report he's erratic. Possible weapon in play. Kennan's gut twisted. That glint from El Centro flashing back. Metal in Taylor's hand, maybe a gun. "Got it," he replied, voice steady. "He's cornered. Let's make it stick." Dallas North Tollway gave way to the Mockingbird exit ramp, a sharp turn framed by oaks and low barriers. Taylor took it hard, the U-Haul's side scraping a tree, bark flying as it rocked onto two wheels before slamming back down. Kennan followed, tires gripping the curve, the cruiser shuddering but holding. "He's on Mockingbird," he shouted into the mic. "Exit's live. He's fighting it." Pete's voice crackled back, urgent. "Spikes are down. 3 units ahead, 1 behind you, Sarge. We're boxing him. Stay sharp." Kennan's eyes flicked to the road ahead, flashing lights piercing the dusk. 3 cruisers forming a V across the lane, their hoods glinting under streetlights. Beyond, a strip of tire spikes gleamed, a jagged promise of an end. "Beautiful," he breathed, easing the cruiser into position as Taylor charged the blockade. The U-Haul's engine roared, defiant, but Kennan saw the trap closing, 2 units from Lemon cutting in from the south, boxing the ramp's mouth. "No way out, Taylor," he said under his breath, heart pounding. "Time's up." But Taylor didn't stop. The truck swerved, clipping a 15th car, a red pickup that spun into a ditch, its horn blaring as the driver ducked low. Kennan cursed, weaving past the wreck, the count ticking in his head like a drumbeat. 15, Pete, he's still going. The radio sparked. Dispatch again. 15 confirmed. Suspects at Mockingbird Lane approaching choke point. Officers report no clear shot. Hold formation. Kennan clicked the mic, voice taut. "Holding. He's got nowhere left. Tell the team to brace. He's not giving up." The U-Haul barreled toward the blockade, its hood dented, smoke thickening from the grill. Kennan stayed tight, a shadow on its tail. The cruiser's lights bathing the truck in a relentless glow. Ahead, officers shouted, muffled through the glass, "Stop! Police!" Their silhouettes tense behind the cars. Taylor swerved again, the truck's nose slamming into a concrete barrier with a grinding screech, sparks flying as it ricocheted back onto the road. "He's bouncing," Kennan reported, voice steady despite the chaos. "Mockingbird's got him. Spikes are live." Dallas watched, breathless, the ramp a funnel of flashing lights and twisted steel, commuters peering from safe distances, phones raised. Kennan pictured Lisa again. "Stay safe," and pushed the thought aside, focus narrowing to the truck ahead. "Pete," he said into the mic. "He's 50 yards from the spikes. Tell me we've got coverage." Pete's reply was swift. "Full net, 2 behind, 3 ahead, spikes across. He's done, Sarge. Bring him in." The U-Haul roared closer, its tires thumping over debris, Taylor's silhouette a frantic blur in the cab. Kennan eased off slightly, giving the trap room to work. Too close, and he'd be in the crossfire. "Come on, buddy," he murmured, watching the truck hurtle toward the spikes. "Take the hint." But Taylor didn't. He gunned it, the engine screaming as the U-Haul charged the blockade, a beast blind to its cage. Kennan's breath caught, the moment stretching. Then the truck hit a 16th car, a gray sedan that spun aside, glass shattering across the ramp. 16, he shouted into the mic, swerving to avoid the wreck. "He's at the spikes. Brace now." The radio buzzed, Pete's voice sharp. "Units ready. He's yours, Sarge." The U-Haul's tires met the spikes with a series of pops, rubber shredding as it fishtailed, smoke pouring from the undercarriage. Taylor fought the wheel, the truck sliding sideways, then slammed into a tree off the ramp with a bone-rattling crash, metal buckling, glass exploding. The beast finally stilled. Kennan braked hard, the cruiser skidding to a stop 10 yards back, dust swirling in the headlights. "He's down," he reported, voice steady but breathless. "Mockingbird Lane. Crashed into a tree, hit 16 cars total. No visual on him yet. Cover me." Pete's reply crackled through. "Backup's on you, Sarge. 2 units rolling in. Stay sharp. He's volatile." Kennan nodded, unclipping his seatbelt, eyes fixed on the wreck. "Volatile's right," he muttered, hand on his holster. "Let's see what's left of you, Taylor." Dallas exhaled around him, the tollway silent but for sirens. The trap sprung, Taylor cornered. Kennan stepped out, boots crunching glass, the night closing in as he braced for the fight ahead. Dust swirled in the humid Dallas night as Sergeant Kennan Craven stepped from his patrol car, boots crunching on shattered glass along Mockingbird Lane on July 25, 2023. The U-Haul truck loomed ahead, its crumpled nose buried in an oak tree, smoke curling from the wreckage after a 16-car rampage down the tollway. Red and blue lights pulsed across the scene, 3 backup cruisers fanning out behind the blockade, officers shouting commands over the fading echo of sirens. Kennan's brown eyes narrowed, his hand resting on his holstered Glock, every nerve taut as he scanned the truck's cab. At 32, he'd faced down plenty, drunks, thieves. But Ryan Taylor's chaos was a beast of its own. "Suspects crashed," he called into the mic, voice steady despite the adrenaline spiking through him. "Mockingbird exit, tree impact, no movement yet. Cover me, I'm approaching." Officer Pete Delgado's reply crackled back, sharp and urgent. "Copy, Sarge. 2 units on your 6, weapons hot. Watch yourself, he's armed." Kennan nodded, stepping forward, the night air thick with gasoline and tension. Dallas watched from the sidelines. Onlookers clustered near Love Field's hangars, phones glowing as they recorded the standoff. The U-Haul's driver's side door creaked open and Taylor stumbled out, a wiry figure in a black hoodie, his dark hair plastered with sweat. He hit the ground hard, one knee buckling, then straightened, clutching a handgun that glinted under the streetlights. "Can Sat Jai," Kennan bellowed, drawing his Glock and leveling it as he closed the gap. "Drop the weapon, now." Taylor's bloodshot eyes locked on him, wild and unhinged, his mouth twisting into a snarl. He didn't drop it. Instead, he raised the gun, finger twitching on the trigger. 2 shots rang out, crack muzzle flashes lighting the dusk as Taylor fired. Kennan dove left, the first bullet whizzing past his ear, the second tearing through his sleeve, grazing his shoulder with a sting that burned hot. He hit the pavement rolling, tasting dirt, then sprang up behind a wrecked sedan, heart hammering. "Shots fired!" he shouted into the mic, voice tight but controlled. "He's shooting! Cover fire now!" The team responded, pops echoing as officers behind the blockade returned shots, bullets pinging off the truck's frame, forcing Taylor to duck. Kennan peeked over the sedan's hood, blood trickling down his arm, a shallow cut he ignored. Taylor crouched near the U-Haul, firing blindly. Another shot cracking into a cruiser's windshield, glass spiderwebbing. "Drop the gun!" Kennan yelled again, his voice booming over the chaos. "You're done! Show me your hands!" Taylor's reply was a guttural scream, incoherent rage, as he popped up and squeezed off 2 more rounds, one slamming into the tree, bark exploding in splinters. "Enough of this," Kennan muttered, steadying his Glock. He took a breath, aimed low, Taylor's legs in his sights, and fired. 15 shots erupted in a rapid burst, his training kicking in, muscle memory overriding the noise. One bullet struck true, Taylor's right thigh, a red bloom spreading as he crumpled with a howl, the gun slipping from his grip to clatter 3 feet away. "He's hit," Kennan called, rising cautiously, weapon still trained. "Leg shot, gun's down, but he's close to it." Officers swarmed from the blockade, boots pounding as they flanked the wreck. "Crawl out!" Pete's voice cut through, his stocky frame leading the charge, shotgun raised. "On your stomach, arms out!" Taylor writhed, clutching his leg, blood pooling beneath him. But his hand twitched toward the gun. Kennan surged forward, closing the gap in 3 strides, and kicked the weapon away. Metal skidding across the pavement, out of reach. "Don't even think it," he growled, looming over Taylor, Glock steady. "Show me your hands, now." Taylor's wild eyes met his, defiance flickering, then fading as pain took over. He slumped, hands rising slowly, palms up, trembling in the cruiser lights. "Got him," Kennan said into the mic, breath ragged but firm. "Suspects down. Weapon secured. Need medics. Leg wound. Bleeding bad." Pete jogged up, panting, his shotgun lowering as he took point. "Nice shot, Sarge. Keep those hands where I can see 'em, pal." He barked at Taylor, who groaned, face pale against the asphalt. Kennan stepped back, holstered his Glock, and wiped sweat from his brow, the sting in his shoulder flaring now that the rush ebbed. Dallas exhaled around them, onlookers murmuring, a child's cry piercing the night from the hangar crowd. He glanced at the U-Haul, its crumpled shell a testament to Taylor's madness. 16 cars, a highway torn apart, and now this, a firefight on the city's edge. "Pete," he said, voice low, "cuff him. Medics can patch him after." 2 officers moved in, flipping Taylor onto his stomach, cuffs clicking as he grunted in pain. "Stay down," one snapped, securing his wrists. Kennan knelt beside the sedan, catching his breath, the radio buzzing with dispatch's update. "Suspect neutralized. Shots fired. 1 officer grazed. Suspect wounded. EMS en route. ETA 2 minutes." He clicked the mic, steadying his tone. "Copy. Craven here. I'm fine. Superficial. Suspect's leg hit. He's immobile but alive." Pete crouched beside him, eyes scanning the scene. "You sure you're good, Sarge? That sleeve's red." Kennan glanced at his arm, blood seeping through the tear, a shallow groove where the bullet kissed skin. "Just a scratch," he said, managing a tight grin. "Lisa's gonna kill me more than Taylor did." Pete chuckled, clapping his shoulder, then winced as Kennan hissed, "Sorry, medical fix that. Hell of a night, huh?" "Hell of a night," Kennan agreed, standing as the team secured the perimeter. Taylor lay cuffed, moaning, blood pooling under his leg, the fight drained from him. Kennan's gaze shifted to the gun, kicked 10 feet away, a snub-nosed revolver, scratched and dull. "Volatile," he muttered, recalling dispatch's warning. 8 years on the force, and this was the edge. Bullets flying, lives teetering, Dallas trembling in the balance. Sirens wailed closer, EMS rounding the corner, red lights cutting the dusk. An officer waved them in, shouting, "Over here, leg wound bleeding out." Kennan watched as Taylor's head lolled, consciousness slipping, the night closing around him. "Pete," he said, voice firm, "get a tourniquet on him. Keep him stable till they're here." Pete nodded, grabbing a kit from his cruiser, kneeling to wrap the makeshift band around Taylor's thigh, blood slicking his hands as he tightened it. Kennan stepped back, the scene unfolding. Officers cordoning the ramp, medics rushing in, Dallas peering from the shadows. He flexed his shoulder, pain sharp but bearable, and thought of Lisa. Stay safe. A promise he'd kept, just barely. "Radio," he said, voice steady. "Suspects contained. EMS on scene. Perimeter's ours. Let's wrap this." Pete's voice crackled back, grimly satisfied. "Copy, Sarge. Nightmare's over. You're the man." "Not over yet," Kennan murmured, eyes on Taylor as medics swarmed, Dallas settling into an uneasy quiet. The edge had held. 16 wrecks, a firefight, a city spared worse, but the weight lingered, a shadow he'd carry home. The Dallas night settled into an uneasy hush as Sergeant Kennan Craven stood on the edge of Mockingbird Lane, the wrecked U-Haul casting jagged shadows under the streetlights on July 25, 2023. Ryan Taylor lay cuffed on the pavement, blood pooling beneath his wounded leg, his wild defiance snuffed out by pain and exhaustion. Red and blue lights bathed the scene, 3 cruisers forming a perimeter, officers barking orders as EMS medics swarmed in with a stretcher. Kennan's brown eyes tracked the chaos, his grazed shoulder throbbing under his torn sleeve, but relief softened the edges of his adrenaline. At 32, he'd faced the storm and held the line. "Suspects stable. Tourniquets on," Officer Pete Delgado called, stepping back as medics knelt beside Taylor, their gloves slick with blood. Kennan nodded, holstering his Glock, the weight of the firefight lifting as he clicked the mic. "Craven here. Suspect's down. EMS has him. Perimeter's secure. No further threats." Dispatch's voice crackled back, crisp and steady. "Copy, Sergeant. Situation contained. EMS reports leg wound, non-critical. Good work out there." Kennan exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow with his good arm, the sting in his shoulder a dull ache now. He glanced at Taylor, face pale, eyes half closed, a man broken by his own madness. The revolver lay 10 feet away, kicked aside during the takedown, its dull barrel catching the cruiser lights. "Good work, huh?" he muttered, shaking his head. 16 cars wrecked, a highway torn apart, bullets flying. Dallas had dodged a worse fate, and that was enough for now. Pete jogged over, his stocky frame heaving from the sprint, shotgun slung over his shoulder. "Medics say he'll live. Leg's a mess, but he's breathing. You okay, Sarge?" Kennan flexed his arm, wincing as blood seeped through the tear. Fine, just a nick. Taylor's aim was as bad as his driving. Pete grinned, clapping his back, then pulled back with a sheepish look as Kennan hissed. Sorry. Still a hero, though. Hell of a shot to drop him. Had to be, Kennan said, voice low. He glanced at the wrecked sedan he'd ducked behind, bullet holes pocking its hood, a reminder of how close it had been. 8 years on the force, and this topped them all. A chase turned war. Dallas trembling under Taylor's rampage. He turned as medics lifted Taylor onto the stretcher, his cuffed hands limp, a groan escaping as they strapped him in. Get him patched, Kennan told them, stepping aside. He's got a date with lockup after. The crowd near Love Field's hangars stirred, onlookers inching closer, their murmurs rising over the hum of engines taxiing in the distance. A man in a baseball cap pushed forward, voice rough with gratitude. Hey, officers, thank you. Saw the whole thing. That guy was nuts. Kennan managed a tired smile, raising a hand. Just doing the job, sir. Glad everyone's safe. A woman beside the man nodded, clutching her phone, her voice shaky. He almost hit my sister's car on the tollway. You stopped him. Bless you all. Appreciate it, Kennan replied, the weight of her words settling in. 16 wrecks, no deaths, a miracle in the mess. He glanced at the highway beyond, cars resuming their crawl, drivers peering from rolled-down windows, Dallas exhaling as the nightmare faded. Pete, he said, turning to his partner, check the civvies. Make sure no one's hurt back there. Pete saluted, jogging toward the wrecked pickup near the ramp, its driver leaning against the hood, dazed but upright. Kennan clicked the mic again, voice steadying. Dispatch, give me a rundown. Any injuries from the crashes? The reply came quick. 16 vehicles hit, minor injuries reported. Cuts, bruises, one sprained wrist from an airbag. No fatalities, no criticals. You kept it contained, Craven. He closed his eyes for a second, relief washing over him like cool water. Copy, he said. Tell the team. Good work all around. An EMS medic approached, a young woman with a clipboard, her ponytail bouncing as she nodded at his arm. Sergeant, let me see that shoulder. Looks like more than a scratch. Kennan waved her off, then relented as she raised an eyebrow. All right, but make it quick. He's the priority, he said, nodding at Taylor, now loaded into the ambulance. She peeled back his sleeve, cleaning the graze with a swab that stung like hell, then wrapped it tight. Clean wound. Lucky shot. You're good, but get it checked later. Thanks, Kennan said, flexing his arm as she stepped away. He watched the ambulance doors slam shut, Taylor's stretcher rattling as they rolled toward Baylor Hospital, sirens fading into the night. One down, he murmured, turning to survey the scene, officers cordoning the U-Haul, tow trucks rumbling in to clear the wrecks, Dallas stitching itself back together. He sank onto the curb, elbows on his knees, the rush draining as reality settled in. Pete returned, wiping his brow, his grin wide. Civvies are shaken, but okay. Pickup guy's already calling you a legend. Said he saw you dive like a movie star. Kennan chuckled, the sound rough but genuine. Movie star with a wife who's gonna ground me. Lisa's not gonna like this shirt. Pete laughed, sitting beside him, the weight of the night shared in the quiet. She'll forgive you when she hears you saved the day. 16 cars, Sarge. No one's dead. That's a win. A win, Kennan agreed, staring at the U-Haul's crumpled shell. He pictured Taylor's eyes, wild, lost, a man undone by whatever demons drove him to this. 8 years had taught him to see the why, drugs, despair, a life off the rails. But tonight, the how mattered more. Stopping it, protecting Dallas. Pete, he said, voice firm, get statements from the crowd. Let's wrap this clean. On it, Pete replied, standing with a groan, heading toward the onlookers. Kennan stayed put, the curb cool under him, watching as officers moved with purpose, taping off the ramp, directing traffic, restoring order. A kid waved from the hangar fence, tiny hand clutching a toy car, and Kennan waved back, a flicker of warmth cutting through the exhaustion. For you, little man, he whispered, thinking of his own son asleep at home. The radio buzzed one last time, dispatch's voice softer now. Scene secure, Craven. Suspect en route to hospital, then booking. You're clear to stand down. He clicked the mic, a faint smile tugging his lips. Copy. Standing down. Tell the chief it's over. He leaned back, hands braced on the pavement, Dallas humming around him. The night reclaiming its rhythm, peace edging out the chaos. Kennan stood, dusting off his pants, the graze on his shoulder a dull throb he'd feel tomorrow. Taylor was gone, an ambulance ghost in the distance, and the city breathed again. He glanced at Pete, corralling witnesses, then at the officers hauling debris, a team that had held the line. Nightmare's over, he said to himself, echoing Pete's words, the weight lifting as Dallas settled into quiet. But the shadow lingered. A story not fully told, a fight won but not forgotten. The Dallas skyline glittered under a crisp January morning in 2024, 6 months since the chaos of July 25th had torn through the city's streets. Sergeant Kennan Craven stood in the precinct's briefing room, his navy dress uniform pressed sharp, a faint scar tracing his shoulder where Ryan Taylor's bullet had grazed him. At 32, his sandy hair showed a few new grays, but his brown eyes held steady, reflecting a quiet pride as Chief Maria Ortiz pinned a commendation medal to his chest. The room buzzed, officers clapping, a few whistles piercing the air, and Kennan managed a grin, the weight of that night lifting with each cheer. "Exceptional bravery," Chief Ortiz said, her voice carrying over the applause, warm but firm. 16 wrecks, a firefight, no lives lost. Sergeant Craven, you turned a nightmare into a miracle. Dallas owes you. She stepped back, saluting, and Kennan returned it, his throat tight. "Thank you, Chief," he replied, voice steady despite the emotion bubbling up. "Team effort. Couldn't have done it alone." Pete Delgado, leaning against the wall in his own crisp uniform, smirked and called out, "Sure, Sarge, but you took the bullets." Laughter rippled through the room, easing the formality, and Kennan shook his head, the memory of that humid night flashing back, Taylor's wild eyes, the U-Haul's crash, the sting of lead on his skin. 6 months had softened the edges, but the scars remained, his own and Dallas's. He glanced at the medal, silver glinting under the fluorescent lights, then at the crowd. Officer Pete, the covert team, faces that had held the line with him. "Guess I owe you all a round later," he said, earning a chorus of cheers. The ceremony wrapped and Kennan stepped outside, the January chill biting through his jacket as he headed for his truck. Dallas stretched around him, morning traffic humming along the tollway, rebuilt guardrails gleaming where Taylor's rampage had torn them apart. He'd driven that stretch yesterday, training a rookie, pointing out the spots, Wycliffe, Mockingbird, where chaos had reigned. "Every day's a fight," he'd told the kid, echoing his own lesson from that night. "But it's worth it when you win." Back home, Lisa waited in their cozy Oak Cliff bungalow, her dark curls framing a smile as she pulled him into a hug. "My hero," she teased, tapping the metal before kissing him soft and slow. Their son Jake barreled in, 5 years old, all energy, waving a toy police car. "Daddy, stop the bad guy," he shouted, zooming the car across the hardwood. Kennan scooped him up, laughing as Jake's giggles filled the room. "Yeah, buddy," he said, ruffling his hair. "Kept the streets safe for you." Dinner was quiet, chicken pot pie, Lisa's specialty, until Jake piped up, eyes wide. "Did the bad guy shoot a lot?" Kennan swapped a look with Lisa, her brow arching, and chose his words careful. "He tried, but Daddy was faster. He's locked up now. No more trouble." Jake nodded, satisfied, digging into his plate, and Lisa squeezed Kennan's hand under the table. "You're still here," she whispered, her voice soft with relief. "That's what matters." Taylor's fate had sealed weeks after that night. Hospital records showed meth in his system, enough to fry his nerves, explain the madness, and a psych eval painted a grim picture. Years of addiction, petty crime spiraling into desperation. By September he'd faced court, cuffed, leg braced from Kennan's shot, pleading guilty to 16 counts of vehicular assault, attempted murder of an officer, theft, and reckless endangerment. The judge handed down 25 years, no parole, a sentence that hit the news like a quiet thud. "Dallas man jailed after tollway chaos," the headlines read, and Kennan had skimmed it over coffee, feeling no triumph, just closure. The city healed too. 16 victims, drivers battered by Taylor's rampage, shared their stories online, a patchwork of gratitude and grit. A woman from the Silver Coupe at Wycliffe sent Kennan a card. "Saw you chase him. Thought I'd lose my brother that day. Thank you." The pickup driver from Mockingbird, now a local legend, bragged at bars about the cop who dove like a stuntman. No deaths, no critical injuries. A miracle Chief Ortiz called Craven's luck at the precinct, a nickname Pete wouldn't let die. Kennan leaned back in his chair, Jake's toy car parked beside his plate, and let the warmth sink in. Home, family, a city still standing. 6 months ago, he'd sat on that curb, blood on his sleeve, Dallas trembling around him. Now the tollway hummed smooth. Lovefield's hangars buzzed with flights, and the nightmare felt like a distant echo. "What's next?" Lisa asked, clearing dishes, her tone light but curious. "More medals, or you sticking to traffic stops?" "Training," he said, standing to help. "Got rookies coming up. Gonna teach 'em what I learned that night." She smiled, stacking plates in the sink. "What's that?" Kennan paused, hands wet with suds, and thought of Taylor. Wild eyes, a life lost to shadows, and the kid waving from the hangar fence. "Every fight's worth it," he said, voice firm. "Even the ugly ones, especially those." Later, he drove the tollway again. Patrol shift, rookie shotgun, Dallas glowing under a starlit sky. "This is where it went down," he told the kid, nodding at Mockingbird's rebuilt ramp. 16 cars, bullets flying. Thought I'd lose it all. The rookie, a lanky 23-year-old named Torres, whistled low. "And you took him down?" "Damn, Sarge." Kennan chuckled, easing the cruiser north. "Team did. We just held the line. You'll learn. Chaos comes. You face it." The radio stayed quiet, a rare calm. And Kennan let the city roll by. Neon signs, late-night diners, Dallas breathing easy. Taylor was a memory now, locked behind bars, his storm snuffed out. The commendation sat on his dresser at home, a silver reminder. But the real win was here, the streets he'd fought for, the lives he'd shielded. "Worth it," he murmured, echoing his words to Lisa, a truth carved from that night. Back at the precinct, Pete caught him clocking out, grinning wide. "Heard you're training the newbies, Sarge. Gonna tell 'em about your movie star dive?" Kennan smirked, grabbing his keys. "Maybe, just to keep 'em awake. Buy you that round tomorrow?" Pete nodded, waving him off. "Deal. Hero's tab." Kennan stepped into the January night, Dallas crisp and alive around him. Cars humming, lights twinkling, a city he'd pulled from the edge. He climbed into his truck, the scar on his shoulder a faint itch under his jacket, and drove home, the tollway stretching smooth behind him. 6 months ago, he'd faced a shadow, wild, unyielding, and brought light back. Now he was a husband, a father, a cop, still here, still fighting. Dallas his to protect. In the heart of Dallas, on a night filled with chaos, one officer chose courage over fear, facing danger not for glory, but to protect lives. Sergeant Kennan Craven's bravery reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there are people who step up, hold the line, and make sure we all get to see another sunrise. These aren't just stories, they're real moments that shape our world. If you believe in the power of true stories, in the strength of everyday heroes, then hit that subscribe button. Because there are more stories worth telling, and we'd love to share them with you.